All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us here today. Thank you for coming and viewing our first ever TC late night show. I have a very
Thanks for
special
having me,
guest
man.
here today. One of my best friends in the whole world, Eli Vega. He is the district youth director of the Southern Pacific District out here in SoCal. And Eli and I met actually several years ago at LABI, but we've had the privilege of working together. I worked with Eli at LABI College for 3 years, and so we had a long bonding experience during that
Man.
time. Some
Yeah.
some cool stories that I'll never forget that will always be there. They're time stamped forever. And some things that we saw, man, that might never happen again, and so it's definitely cool. I definitely appreciate you coming here today and doing this for us and being our first ever guest. I wanted to make sure that it was someone famous.
This, well, man, thank you, man, for having me. It's an honor, honestly, to be part of this. I love what you guys are doing at TC and just seeing the just collective minds come together to produce beautiful content, man. And this is a great idea. And yeah, man, you're just taking me back to nostalgia and just thinking about all the things that we did, man. This is it is a journey that I will treasure forever in my life, and it's cool, man. It's cool to see
Yeah,
you.
yeah, man. Thank you for coming, Eli. I thought about you when I thought about this concept in this video, and I just thought that you had very cool perspective on the situation that we're in right now. Coronavirus has taken the world by storm, and it's changed everything. It's changed the
Yeah.
world. It's changed the way we buy groceries. It's changed the way we do church. And wow, that's just crazy. Like,
For real.
in my opinion, is we obviously have never seen it before, right? It's never happened before. So we're learning as we go. We're creating content for people online so they can be safe, and we're continuing to preach the word through it. And so, Eli, thank you for coming, man. I have some questions that I wanted to have you break down for us, and some of them are going to be uh, uh, topic related, and some of them are for your perspective from the district. And a lot of people may not know that there's a district that is that we are affiliated with as a church, as an Assemblies of God church. And because of that, there's a department for youth and young adult ministries to get resources and to find some help during this time. And I know that you've been doing that, and you've been owning that space in a lot of ways, and stepping into new roles and multitasking and the things you've been doing your whole life, bro. I mean, the last 10 years,
Yeah.
you've been jumping into new spaces constantly. So I don't think it's new for you, Eli. But question number one is, how are youth and young adults groups handling coronavirus right now? What are you seeing from a district perspective in these churches? How are they handling, how are they owning the moment?
That's a great question. I think for the most part, it's been a joy to see many youth leaders really mobilize their youth in a very creative way, where a lot of pastors and senior leaders have reached out for help, and I'm starting to see the gifts of our youth kind of just being deployed in these areas of online streaming, social networking, ways that will enable the church to better connect with the community. And I think it's been something that I'm actually, if there's anything that we can say that's good about this COVID-19, I would say is the fact that the door is opening a lot more wider for younger leaders to step in and to help the church, and versus having to wait or having to be told that you're the future and having to wait 10 years to something to come up. Now it's more than evident that more and more young leaders are stepping up to the plate and it's really awesome to see from direct phone, live streaming on Facebook, and even so that the audio is not as clear or the visual is not as clear, but you're seeing the pastors are trying hard, and then you see a church that is pre-recording, and then something happens, the transitions are not. But I think that in that, there is something beautiful in there. I think that everyone's coming together and trying to help. So I think for the most part, there's this huge practicum happening before our eyes, where youth are not only just getting Bible studies, but now they're being deployed to practice ministry. And as crazy as this may sound, but practicing ministry through their phones, and mobilizing and sharing and hashtagging and creating filters and presets and pre-recordings and premiere this and premiere that. And it's just so beautiful to see the church mobilizing their youth in every other, crack and corner that the church used to kind of overlook and not really paid much attention to it. So I think that, for the most part, youth, I've seen a lot. And we've been, from the district perspective, kind of just been here to receive any questions or calls. And we've been kind of mentoring leaders on what to do or how to do, certain things. I personally have been helping certain pastors on just kind of better connecting with their youth so that they can enable them to help the church. So it's been fun to see that, bro. And I think, it's a joy, to be honest, to see that, because many of the reasons why a lot of young people leave, I'd say, per se, that our churches, because of its lack of connection, lack of opportunities. But now I think the opportunities are skyrocketing. So
yeah,
I think so.
That's crazy, man. So I know a lot of pastors are reaching out to you for help with live streaming and stuff. But are you getting the same level of calls for help from youth and young adult ministries, or are you just seeing it on a senior pastor level?
At first, it was senior pastor level, and I think it was because all calls were being directed to me. But what I started doing was I started reaching out to the youth leaders of each of those churches, and then the calls were returning from the actual youth leader. So it was an easier way to connect with the youth leader or the young minister that was in charge at that point. But what we're doing now is we're trying to do something soft, which is just doing these youth leader Zoom gatherings every week. And we bring a professional or professor or someone who is an expert in a specific area and just do like a 1 hour type of presentation, answer questions, and just kind of show our youth leaders that we're present. But during that time that the whole COVID-19 happened, as I was helping, SPDYM was asked to help these pastors, about 37 plus pastors that needed like emergency help. We decided to also kind of pull the e-break for a minute and just kind of reevaluate ourselves and ask the questions, are we really ready to handle the questions or provide the necessary help for our pastors or youth leaders? So that kind of sparked for me like the idea of recreating a whole new website. And during that time, in a month and a half, I created a new website and also created a new social network platform, which I'd like to share later about, and try to kind of just model what I thought some of the churches could probably benefit from, reamping their websites, creating a social network platform or a CRM that would help them understand on whether or not, if they're really connecting with the church or not. I mean, with their church members or not. So, so we've been kind of working on a lot of those things and making ourselves available for youth leaders who may have questions.
That's cool, man. And these weekly gatherings, I think they're happening on Fridays, right? Your weekly gatherings with youth leaders.
Yes.
Is that also open to young adults leaders? I know some churches have young adult ministries.
Yeah, so the word gets a little muddy. Here's the thing. This whole COVID-19 kind of just, exposed some ministries that weren't ready to handle it, and also kind of ruined the momentum for other ministries that were barely getting started. So with us, SPDYM, we were on our second year, I would like to say, of promoting young adult ministries. We were actually weeks away from having our young adult retreat. And part of having a young adult retreat was to expose the idea that there is a huge group of people in our district that need space, that need to be acknowledged. And part of us having a young adult retreat, which by the way, our registration numbers were doubled from last year, and we were doing so good. I was so bummed out because, But anyways, so the reason why I'm sharing all this is because the young adult term, even though some churches may have a young adult ministry like you guys, but for many of our churches, we got to know that there's 343 churches in our district. Many of them don't have a young adult ministry. They have youth and young adults connected, meshed together. And so we were trying to advocate for change. And so what we're doing right now is inviting the youth leader to bring someone that they see that has either a calling for young adult ministries, or have the youth leader step into the young adult ministry and train somebody to become the youth leader. And so that was kind of like the trainings and the message that we were trying to communicate prior to this whole COVID-19. But yeah, everyone's welcome to come to these trainings. So far, we have over 100 people registered. On a given week, we have about 50, people who actually tune in. But yeah, it's our way of kind of softly just offering something. We don't want to overcommit, because right now our department is almost kind of like called to be mobilized to help in pockets where maybe pastors or churches or the district may need help. And I hate for me to just overcommit myself to so many projects and I don't deliver. So that's where we're at.
That's a good point, man. And it's a good point that you made with the whole young adult youth ministries. It's kind of, for a lot of churches, it's just one thing. They haven't expanded outward. And even for our church, it's somewhat new. This ministry is about a year old, and we took over the ministry like right at the beginning of coronavirus. So we're having to live in this era. Like we'll never forget it now. It's gonna be coronavirus, the memories forever. But that's awesome, man. I think the young adults retreat was a highlight of last year for us. And we were so pumped about this year. Like it was going to be from our ministry perspective, it was going to be the way that we moved into this new space, and we were going to use it as a launch to inspire our young people and so that they can see that there are other young adults out there that are hungry for Jesus. And so we were pretty bummed when it was canceled, but obviously understandably, like it wasn't like a disappointment that it was canceled and we should have rebelled through coronavirus, but it was more so that we wish coronavirus hadn't happened and young adults retreat had still been a thing.
Yeah, and we were working really hard to build the case to the executive presbyters and district presbyters and the executive leadership that where the goal was to create a resolution. Basically, the goal is to have a young adult director representing young adults throughout the district, and then have that young adult create content or oversee the leaders or produce leaders or train leaders, multiply leaders. And, right now everything's in the air. Everything is still on trial and error and trying to figure out if this is really a much needed necessity in our district. So, we're hoping to see if maybe they do pass the resolution that we want to submit and they actually take it, or hopefully they just don't leave it on the table. But, surprisingly, not everybody requested a reimbursement. Everybody kind of just said, just leave it there. We believe that, but we did communicate that it was going to be postponed because we didn't know how severe this was going to be. We just thought, oh man, we need to follow the government's guidelines and be in compliance with our local authorities. But as we continued to kind of wait and seeing that the outlines were just getting pushed back and back, we were just like, oh man. So we kind of negotiated softly a contract to like winter times, like December, but it's just, in pencil, we don't know yet. So if we don't do the young adult retreat this year, we'll definitely give people credit for the following year, and those who left their deposit there. So
that's where we're awesome. At. And it's totally understandable. I mean, people have to understand that there's something you committed to on your end, and so you wanna try to see it out, and hopefully it does come to happen. And if it does, we'll be there, bro. You can expect us to be there and support this young adult retreat, because it really, really, really was a highlight of last year. And I think Young Adults Retreat 2.0 would have been like even better.
Dude, that was my favorite event last
Yeah.
year. I mean, every event was amazing. I mean, youth camp was so tiring. You know, just the energy was so hard. But just the young adult, it felt like God was just piercing our hearts, man. Everybody was sobbing, man. It's just like God, just like, I hear you, I see you, I need to speak to you. And everyone, I don't care if you're part of the staff, part of worship team, everyone was just being ministered to. And I felt like, you know, this is what happens when you grab a group of people and you're specific about your message and you're intentional, and you know, things happen versus just praying and praying and hoping that some lives get changed, you know. So anyways,
that's a good point that you make right there, because if there's anything missing from e-church or live stream church right now, is like those God moments, you know, like it almost feels like those only happen in live services. And I don't know about you, but I find it hard sometimes to have those God moments in watching a live stream service.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I have them more now when I'm recording stuff versus when I'm watching stuff. Like I have more God moments personally when I'm recording stuff, and I just like, I know that God's using that moment, you know, but I'm sure a lot of people are frustrated with that, and
yeah, that's true.
It's something that we miss.